it's a beautiful morning here in Abuja. But then, when we look at issues that has to do with Nigeria, you definitely have to continue to educate people with the essence of good leadership at community level, at state level, and also at the national level. For Nigerians, we have three basic tier of government: the federal, the state, and then the federal, the state, and then the local government. These are the three basic forms of government we have in Nigeria, where the local government takes care of the local administration, and then the state takes care of the state administration, and the federal take care of the national, the whole. So now, when we look at this issue, these are issues that are very paramount, because yesterday we had a guest that talked more about leadership and enlightenment, telling us what we need to do whenever the issue of leadership comes up. But then, we are moving closer to 2023 general election, and the need to continue to beat the drum on having good leadership is very, very important. And as the drumbeat of 2023 general elections gets louder, various candidates have to shave or have thrown their weight, their hearts into the ring and moving deftly to the rhythm. Even the members of the political class and statesmen could not but be shocked by the quality of aspirant propelling for the driver's seat. But beyond visionless ambition and embryonic sentiment of party politics, the predominance of leadership qualities, stellar antecedent, pledged, and capacity to turn the curve should not be lost on any Nigerian. In reality, the country is in awful channel across the board. Therefore, Nigeria needs competent presidential candidates that a good leadership recruitment process should produce. So if we continue asking ourselves that, it is very, very paramount that the present and the past leaders of Nigeria seem not to have achieved much to provide quality leadership capable of addressing numerous challenges confronting the country. These leadership challenges are evidenced in political, social, economic instability and prevalence of ethnic, communal, and religious crises, which have bedeviled Nigeria's socio-economic development. But then, to tackle the challenges of leadership that bedeviled the country, Nigeria needs sound ethical leadership that is rooted in respect, service, justice, honesty, and community development. Leaders who place fairness at the center of decision-making, including the challenging task of being fair to individuals as well as to the common interest of the community they serve. Without a doubt, the road to the 2023 general elections will be daunting. However, it is incumbent on Nigerian masses to pay keen attention to the leadership recruitment process and stay vigilant. Nigerians, in their numbers, should be resolute in active participation and citizenship engagement with political processes. It is never too early to have an eye on credible personalities that can lead a new Nigeria and rally behind them. The general public must keep in mind that Nigeria needs leaders that recognizes the country as an important entity, and Nigeria cannot afford the mistakes of 2015 election and then the previous one that takes place. Therefore, it is urgently needed that leaders that can mend fences, restructure the country to function as a true federation, rebuild broken walls from the rubble, and upturn despondency into hope. In order for us to have a very good discussion this morning on this issue of leadership, we will be having Mrs. Dayo Benjamin Lani. She is a media entrepreneur and an event profile global enterprise communicator and a politician that she was also an aspirant in the last primaries of the All Progressive Congress. So she will be joining us this morning. But then before she comes, or before she arrives the studio, it is expected that for you that have listened to the introduction, you know what we are saying. What do you think we have to do to get it right as a nation? So we'll definitely be putting up our phone line when we go for the break and come back. We'll put up the phone line so that you can tell us what are the ways to move this nation forward. How do we get good leadership? Not just at the presidential election, but also when we have the gubernatorial election, the senatorial election, the House of Rep election, the local government election. What are your views? How can we get the best to be on the seat and then to manage the affair of the country or of the community you live in. So let's go on this break. My name is Nuhu. Stay with us and we'll return back.
Mr. President, last Saturday, the country which I have the honor to represent, the Federation of Nigeria, became independent and assumed the rights and the responsibilities of a sovereign state. Today, Nigeria has been admitted into the United Nations organization and assumes still more responsibilities. I wish to make our position plain beyond any matter of doubt as regards the African continent. We in Nigeria appreciate the advantages which the size of our country and of its population give us, but we have absolutely no aggressive intentions. We shall never impose ourselves upon any other country and shall treat every African territory, big or small, as our equal, because we honestly feel that it is only on that basis of equality that peace can be maintained in our continent. We in Nigeria are a populous country. There are about 40 million of us, and our territory is relatively large. We are willing to learn before we rush into the field of international politics. But we are totally unwilling to be diverted from the ideals which we think true. That is the reason, Mr. President, why we in Nigeria shall not be found to align ourselves as a matter of routine with any particular bloc. Indeed, I hate the very idea of blocs existing at all in the United Nations. It seems to me to be a contradiction in terms. When we hear the world crying out for peace, we may receive the inspiration to deal with these intractable problems and be able really to devote all our resources to the advancement of mankind by applying those eternal truths which will inevitably persist long after we ourselves are utterly forgotten. Thank you, Mr. President.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be willed by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite. This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of ASO Radio 93.5 FM Abuja, ASO Television Star Times Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, and UHF Channel 38.
Okay, welcome back from the short break. And good morning, Ms. Dayo Benjamin Lani. It's nice having you this morning on the program.
And it's great to be here.
Because the last time I listened to you, I was motivated to really look in-depthly about the Nigerian sphere. Looking at leadership from 1999 till this particular period is something that at some point we seem to be, we don't really see that development that is expected, being a Nigerian. And then you see most of us that are in this room, we believe that, okay, as youth, we are expecting more than what we have presently. What is your take about the Nigerian leadership structure?
I believe that all leadership, Nigerian and that which is global, historically, and that which presents itself right now, at every stage and age, begins with you. Self-leadership is the most critical pivot for developmental leadership. And looking at Nigeria, yes, without any question, especially our youth, in terms of their expressions, their demands, their emotions, and the challenges that present themselves with the very real dynamics of socioeconomic demise, as well as the call for the hope, not just of the Nigerian youth, but of the Nigerian polity, to embrace the Nigeria of their dreams, their desires. Yes, I understand. There's no question that when it comes to pointing at leadership, it seems like such an easy, immediate thing to do, to not just put the blame, but to question the generational leadership that has gone ahead and is in situ even as we speak. But the reality is there needs to be a place where the conundrum begins to work with a very intentional will to break free. That revolution, as it were, that pressure point, that breakaway reference has to come with the will of the youth to really aggregate their strengths, their voice, and their capacities to drive that which by their design, that which by their, not just definition now, but their own investment. Look at what the youth is doing in terms of innovation, entrepreneurship, using the power of technology, online media engagements for enterprise to drive a whole youth economy for this country. And it has no borders because of its technological adaptations. There is more that can be done, must be done, from faith-based positions, from institutional positions, from political dynamics, youth in political presentations, not just at the level of PVC, but at the level of engagement. The youth must see themselves getting involved, getting ingrained, let me put it that way, in the political structures, the infrastructures, allowing themselves to be mentored by one. Don't look for what is out there. Look for what is in and around you. There must be 1, 2, 3 representations of leadership around you that you can serve, that you can volunteer, that you can commit to, that you yourself can become an expression of that exemplary reference and commitment to service in your nation.
Could that be one of the major things or one of the major gaps you saw as in when you were aspiring to be a senatorial candidate?
Well, let's not put it in past tense. The truth of the matter is, I say you may lose a primary election, but what is critical is not to lose primary direction. The motivation of true leadership in its purity must always remain a steadfast call and an aspiration, you begin to follow through. You begin, and then you follow through. You have to rework how that happens. So let's not put it in past tense.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. It's an
But
aspiration.
yes, without any question. What one of the reasons why, I'll tell you what, as a disruption, there's no question that I emerged in the political space and on the political scene in the FCT for that position of senatorial engagement as a disruption. Why? The why for me, it's not just about the gender representation and the need for us as Nigerian women to courageously, defiantly, and in a place of very strong patriotic resilience, present ourselves. But more importantly, to understand that leadership expresses itself beyond the norms, beyond the status quo, and is a charge and a challenge. And so, yes, without any question, what I qualified was beyond me being qualified to lead, but more about the fact that the qualifications of service, the preparedness, the will to serve what is the hope of nation as expressed through the individual, through me. Yes, I came to understand that politics in purity, in its purest form, is advocacy for the people. And for me, that, as simple as it may sound in its contextual reference, became for me the not an analogy, but clearly a direction. You can do so much for people. It's not about their tribe. It's not about their genders, their social status, their educational pedigree. No, it's just that you, being in position, can make such a significant impact in their lives in simple, budget-defined ways and spaces. For me, I realize that I can do that, and I must do that. And there must be more of us directing people to doing that. We keep on crying for our country and we keep deriding the leadership, and the truth of the matter is, I'm tired of complaining. I'm tired of accusing the other person. There is no perfect person. As perfect as I may seem to be in terms of being an option, there will still be things that need, because you only work well when we work as a team. And the fact of the matter is, once you find a model in leadership inspiring the followership, you will be able to properly position people over time in their own places of engagement and delivery of their own service to the inspired vision, hope, and expression of process. Democracy in itself is no democracy without the institutionalization of the rule of law. The rule of law begins with self-governance. Self-governance, governmental leadership, is the leadership of self. Your choices, your values, your views, and what now translate to your engagements in political processes, your engagement in entrepreneurial commitments, your conversations. It directs the quality of your relationships. And without any question, you see that building hope makes you a builder of nation within the time, using your experiences and connecting those critical dots which around you form a culture, form a direction, an inspiration, but bring about the change that truly develops a nation.
You speak so well, because I've listened to you on several accounts. I've heard people talk more about you, most especially in different fora. And just of recent, there was an event that has to do with leadership where somebody quoted you. And I believe your party, the party you are still in presently, is part of those parties that will be contesting for the 2023 general election. Now that the 2023 general election is in top gear, what do you think would be the factor, the determining factor of who will emerge during the election?
I believe that articulating the hope of people, it's people. Politics, elections, outcomes of campaigns it's people. The whole contesting representations, what do you have to say to the people? What do you have to give? What do you have to offer? Because it's going to come in the quality of your communique, your language, and what you're able to translate as the hope of your people from your partisan position. Whatever the contendings may be, you must be able to find a path of engagement that translates what in political, electoral contendings will always be construed, will always be presented in a particular way to create division, attack, and to implode, as it were, to destroy formations that should bring about unity, faith, peace, and progress. So for me, it's about the people. Politics is about committing to people. That's why they say politicians are liars, because you must speak to the people about what your proposition for their aspiration as citizens of the country in a given time, given the rule of law and engagement that you are going in your aspiration to now translate through your positions in your place and position of elected influence to deliver. So without any question, yes, for me, it's about the people. Right now, there is no question. It's vitriolic, it's bitter, it's divided. It's become tribal, it's become religious,
regional.
It's become regional. It's a place of concern. I don't now just speak as a politician speaking for, but as a woman, as a mother in this nation, as an entrepreneurial leader, as a voice speaking for the youth. It is a prayer that may we not lose the faith that builds the unity and drives the cause of national unity and the hope of another generation coming. Whoever we are, whoever they are, whoever you and I are, what is principal in this time is to find a way to channel through your own demographic, through your own base of influence, to channel and direct the cause of government, the hope of nation, to a place where it is not about division and the destruction of national hope, but it's one that somehow is building in the midst of all that is pulling at the phrase of us as a nation.
Could the leadership that we've been having from 1999 to this present time be one of the major reasons why we are having all these challenges?
There's no question. Everybody is implicit and complicit. Every leadership, every transition of leadership has its own part that it is culpable. You can accuse, you can point fingers and say, because of this, we have this outcome. There's no parent, let me put it this way, even if you are looking within the family. No one is going to be free of one impact or the other, one implication or the other concerning the outcome of a particular child. It's all the same. So without pointing fingers, if you want to say, oh, it's the military, oh, it's the civilian, oh, it's the greed of this, it's the insensitivity of that, it's all there. Our prayer is that as we're going forward to 2023, may the emergence of our leadership for the nation truly be for the nation.
Okay, that's a very good one to end the first half of our discussion, because the issue of leadership is a recurring issue, most especially when you practice democracy. We've seen what is happening globally now in the world. The issue of economy is there. We've seen Sri Lanka, we've seen countries like Pakistan having so many issues. Even the Russia-Ukraine war, we've seen that all these things are having toll. with other countries across the globe, most especially Nigeria, Ghana, in sub-Saharan Africa, we have countries who are also feeling the impact of what leadership is all about. Now, when you look at the economy that we are having now, our present state that we are now, if we are looking towards 2023 general election.
And we are.
And we are. And we are. Now that we are having all these challenges, security, economy, and the rest, what should be the mindset of those candidates who are contesting for the election?
Without any question, security is the first above every other consideration, direction in terms of reconstituting the, it's not just the confidence of the people, but the preservation of our national integrity and our expression in the place of driving the course of Nigeria. Without any question for me, it's about security. Because what do you want to say for economy, for in terms of youth advocacy, positioning of women, all of these things? Nothing. Right now, the volatility of our Nigerian estate due to insecurity is the most disconcerting, challenging. It has created such a fragile representation of everything we are as a nation, from the center, here in the FCT, all across the country. The threats, the actions, the inaction, the apathy, the fear, this is very real. And, you know, while, yes, now it has become a statement almost of humorous representation, Jackpa, you know, everybody is taking off. It is an outcome of the whole demise of our national estate when it comes to the state of security in our nation. If there's one thing, I believe, one thing above every other thing, that anyone emerging in the leadership space should be speaking about, should be strategizing, should be presenting as a reference prototype for directing the course of this nation. It has to do with attacking the attack, dealing with the issue of insecurity, as it's not a debate, it's a national crisis that demands, I mean, some people say, well, are you the president? Are you, no. No matter what, every one of them in their position of leadership must look at securing our domain. And from there, every other critical investment, both in the place of national life, of global economic representations, of our socioeconomic reconstruct, you know, in terms of restructuring, in terms of reshaping our constitutional identity, our rights, our federalism, looking at the representations within the regional spaces in terms of economy, in terms of the shared representation of our own geopolity, our own national natural resources. Also, the most critical resource being our human resource. Human resource not defined by religion, not defined by territorial representation, but defined by the capacity of Nigerians to redeem the security as well as the economic parities of Nigeria through their own ingenuity, because I believe our solution is in us. It is with us. It is with our leaders. But it must begin. It must begin with a very deliberate, almost combative strategy for the insecurity status of us as a nation. If you can't give me clarity on that, you can't give me clarity on where you are taking me to as my leader.
Okay, that's a very good one. Mrs. Dayo Benjamin Lani still with us here in the studio and telling us what we need to know when it comes to the issue of leadership. Leadership issue is very paramount. There is definitely no time that you can't discuss some issues that has to do with leadership. And she's an expert in that because we've seen her work in the private sector, and she's trying to transmute, or she's transmuting by the grace of God, into the public service, a public servant kind of leadership that we expect as a nation. So we continue with her when we come back from this break.
The welfare of millions of people for generations to come may be affected by the wisdom which we here display. If Nigerian leaders and our British partners are to prove themselves worthy of their trust, now is the time for us solemnly and truly to dedicate ourselves to seeking the greatest good of the greatest number of our people in Nigeria. Independence for Nigeria in 1960 is imperative. But independence for Nigeria as a corporate entity is not enough. The peoples of Nigeria must at the same time be guaranteed their freedom. We must ensure that in an independent Nigeria, individual citizens throughout the land enjoy liberty, human dignity, and equality under the law. There must be one Nigeria with one constitution and one law for all. Let us therefore, Mr. Chairman, sir, close our ears to the counsel of despair, which says that we cannot here at this conference agree on a constitution. If there's any doubt among us as to what should be written into the constitution, let us, as Democrats that we profess ourselves to be, refer such problems, as the Gaulle has done recently, to the people whom we profess to represent, either just before or at the federal elections late in 1959.
Welcome back, and still with me in the studio is Mrs. Dayo Benjamin Lani. She is a private sector-driven person, and then you can see the vibe. Definitely it is in her, unlike for those that are in public service, seem to be more relaxed than when you talk. But then now you've been in the private sector, and you know definitely the way you act in the private sector seems to be a bit different when somebody is in the public sector. You seem to be more agile to get things done. And you are also more focused to see that, yes, you are being productive within every point in time. Unlike in the public sector, the bureaucracy is there and the rest of it like that. Do you think that is one of the major challenges we are also having, not having people from private background into leadership of the nation?
Generalizations such as you have just qualified, yes, the private-public challenge, yes, and implicates a number of things. One, you do have personalities within the public sector who have incredible leadership and as well as defined process, institutional-driven qualities that drive excellence, that develop, as it were, not just a civil society, but in terms of outcomes. We have them. We have reformists within the public sector. They are there. But there's no question that with the private sector, what happens? Even within the private sector, you find a lot of people still fail in the applications of those values and those very deliberate, how do I put it, those references that build the prototypes of private sector-driven models of business, entrepreneurship, leadership, and all of that. However, what drives it more than anything else, I would say, is that investment of, one, the risk factor. An entrepreneur will consider, evaluate, determine the resources and the input for certain outcomes, derivables, that are profitable, that are sustainable, that are scalable. These have to be worked. Within the private sector, as a leader, you also understand you've got to build teams because you cannot do it alone. To compromise a process with the challenge of a decision that compromises the integrity of an outcome is whose failure? You can't hand it to someone else. It immediately implicates you. It implicates you reputationally. It implicates you as a corporate reformist, and it implicates you also in terms of your identity within a reference sphere of industry or professionalism. So without any question, the persona, the individual, immediately becomes the brand for that sector, for that enterprise, for that private sector-driven initiative that they are now the representation of. So yes, you will find that within the private sector, it's like the risk you take, the reputational identity that you are, as well as the collateral build-up over time that will define you as a failure or as good success. These three elements in terms of your own outcome and output are critical keys to preserving, as it were, your stake and the stakeholder enterprise that you, as a sector leader, reformer, become the expression of. Now, when it comes to the public service, in terms of what they call it, not having enough of, I won't say you don't have enough of those people in there. It's just that in terms of the mindset, the training, the scaling, so, you know, you need models. We need to be more inspirational, and we don't need to overwhelm processes with a backlog of projects that have not been followed through, that are not connected through transition to a next governmental, as we're going to see, leadership that will be coming in. Where these disconnections come, what it also does, it creates more and more breakups within the system that do not produce the delivery of projects, as it were, invested in by governments, by leaderships that are sequenced and coming in and coming through to a place of providing those options. So really for me, I would say that when it comes to, that's why I believe so much in public-private sector partnerships. I believe in that because one way or another, there's always the hand-holding. There's that which drives it. Everyone is part of an institutional system. No economy, no national project in terms of its true success can succeed without the other. Each one is life for the other. And this is what also in terms of mentoring and aggregating the power of that mentored leadership, mentored processes into a place of institutional reform will produce for us the shape of the aspiration that we want for our nation, and in terms, as we're speaking about leadership and the advocacy that brings the youth up. The youth themselves are incredible leaders at their own places of engagement, of service. Every one of our leaders today, in terms of our ministers, in terms of our CEOs, in terms of, you name it, every one of them have TAs, PAs, SAs, who actually put together the different presentations, the expressions of the ingenuity, the designing and coming up, as it were, with the prototypes for the change advocates we are looking for, not just in leadership, but in the place of national consensus and economic paradigm. So it's the youth, it's the PAs and TAs. Yes, actually, you know, I always say that when we see an honorable minister, a distinguished senator, an honorable member of the House, you name them, your excellencies, all speaking, who put their speeches together?
The youth.
Thank you. Who directed the ideas that are being presented at the UN that are being spoken? It's the youth. So honestly, a lot more credence, but what needs to now be done is to organize it. I would really love to see where somehow through some institutional representation, a lot of these PAs and SAs are brought together and TAs in a place where they actually are able to work on certain reforms, come up with the ideas, and present to their principals. Another incredible human resource in Nigeria, our permanent secretaries, retired permsecs. They have so much in them that the youth connecting to that particular demographic would find that you're able to come out with some very potent and true legacy forming projects, as well as redemptive, because there are things that we have to review within our processes as well. Things that can redeem the life of what seems to be moribund, what seems to be redundant when it comes to the investment of previous leadership, previous governments, previous administrations in national projects.
Okay, let me put up the phone line so that the listeners at home, those that use this, the ASO Radio 93.5, to listen to our programs, and then those that call or listen to or view our TV, that's on Star Time, Star Channel 127. The number to call is 090-5740-8127. I'll take that again, 090-5740-8127. You call, stating your name, your location, and move far away from your TV set before you make your submission or your question known. She's here to answer or listen to your submission. So now that we're having issues like this, now you've seen the candidates we have across all political parties, and you look at Nigeria in the next 30 years. When you look at all these
next 30 years,
in
3 decades.
3 decades. When you look at all these candidates, are you satisfied with their level of preparedness? Are you satisfied with their level of competency before they can vie for such office?
Well, you're asking if I am satisfied, competence, and preparedness.
Yes.
The truth of the matter is what we have is what we have. And yes, without any question, I'm on the party platform. Yes, I'm satisfied. There are many things that can poke holes at, but the truth of the matter is satisfaction is defined by your own...
Okay, let's get this call. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Okay, we lost it. The number still to call is 090-5740-8127. Your call stating your name, your location, and go ahead with your submission. Okay, please, you're still on that.
You know, the reality is this: when it comes to the offerings, the presentation of our different representations for the different positions that we have, I must find a way to determine that of these offerings, this one is my direction. Nothing is ever perfect. Working with the expectation or anticipation of perfection will only lead to frustration. Politics is not about sentiments, being sentimental. Politics is about facing the demands of the now to arrive at a decision in the now. That is the ultimate risk for the future you are seeking through your aspirations to establish. When you have positioned yourself either through partisan engagement or through a position of personal persuasion or as a consequence of certain investments, you must follow through. That is political process. Now the outcomes, right, of this will move you away from what is a conundrum to what now becomes an expression. It also helps you to begin to work. Okay.
Hello, good morning.
Good
Hello, good
morning,
morning.
President.
Good morning,
You are
please. Your
keeping
name and
us
where you're calling
waiting so long. And good morning, our guest. I am A. Williams. I'm calling from. I've been listening to you, and you have a mindset that should be properly utilized in not the particular political party which you are at the moment, because Nigerians are so dissatisfied with the two dominant political parties. They have played on our intelligence for a very long time, and we have suffered the same defeat all the time. They come and promise us heaven and earth. At the end of the day, we see practically nothing. The people that is neutrally minded and is focused, like you, supposed to be in a place, in a party that Nigerians are willing to buy into at the moment. You see what is happening. These two dominant parties, do you know that in the villages we are in preparation to 2023 presidential election, that you know that even here in FCT, in the rural areas, they have gone about collecting biodata of voters already. They collect their names, they collect their BVN, and they collect their voters number. A snapshot or a photocopy of their voters card. So that is in preparation to vote buying, which is very, very bad. Is what has brought us where
sorry,
we are today.
we'll have to,
Because
because
we are
of time,
suffering.
please, we'll have to stop you there so that we can have her to have a concluding remark based on our discussion. We just have just a minute or two remaining. So thank you for your submission. So you've heard him, but then I think the issue of vote buying will be a very difficult one this time around with the coming of BVAs, and we've seen it actually happening, and we've seen reduction in that process from Anambra to Osun election. Definitely we've seen reduction in that process. So now that we're at this point now, he has raised a critical issue that Nigeria seems to have disinterest on the two major political parties, PDP, APC. Well, I can't say Nigeria because there are certain people who also believe in those parties. What can you say about the feelings of Nigeria with regards to what he has stated?
There's no question that right now in Nigeria there's a lot of demand for accountability in this place of election profiling of our personalities who are there in the leadership for these positions. There's no question that that also has a lot of angst because of the failure and the apathy that has come into the, not even just the political space, but into the existential representation of who we are as a nation, our needs, our aspirations. And like I said, they promise 7 and 8, and you end up with 11 and 25. The truth of the matter is, this is what the reality is. And I'd like to state categorically that I don't need to be anywhere other than where I am in terms of my position at this time. You need to have people like me where I am. And the reality is not because I'm better than anyone in that space, but because there are more people like me in the space that I am occupying in terms of my political representation. But what is your political representation? Your political representation is for people, beginning with your own personal decisions, your values, and a verdict that you give every outcome of reference. So yes, this is the reality. This is what is going on. We do have the two dominant parties. We also have a dominant expression within the political space. But the truth is, the outcomes of this for 2023 are going to demand that whatever the emotionalisms are, we must come to a place of positioning, very real index of change. And we must be ready to resist and establish that, whatever party you are in. So where I am is where I am. And from this position, we must reposition and establish a position for Nigeria. And I am confident that that is in the doing.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Dayo Benjamin Lani, for joining us this morning on the program, The Roundtable.
Thank you.
And I believe Nigerians have heard, and you've actually given an explicit view of what the situation should be. and not what it is presently. So we expect the best.
What it could be.
What it could be, yeah. Thank you so much for that. So that's how far we can go today on the program, The Roundtable. My name is Issa Nuhu. Have a wonderful day and stay blessed.
Amen. Yeah.
We are still